Kane is in the building.
It's Mr. Steal Your Girl. It's Mr. Steal Your Girl. Hey girl, hey girl, hey girl, hey girl, hey girl. Let go. Bottoms up, ever see you cup? Got a couple bottles, but a couple ain't enough. Bottoms up, throw your hands up. Tell security.
Alright, shut the fuck up. Please. Thank you. Listen. Monish. Daddy. Sorry. What? Anyway. Oh, look at that fucking mustache. Oh, the things I do to you. What am I... Alright. Listen, I came across a video of Monish, the mustache himself, dissing the Kelly criterion of all things. Saying it was a mistake to use it in its simplest form. However, in its completed form, it's actually very useful. And I'm going to do my best to try and explain that and why his comments are wrong. But first, I'm going to show you the video of him talking about it.
Do you still think about the Kelly formula in terms of developing probability of success for ideas? Kelly formula. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the Kelly formula. The Kelly formula was a mistake on my part. I should have never put it into my book. I should have never talked about it. It works if you are doing, 5,000 coin tosses. Where you're repeatedly making bets with known odds. If you had heads was 51%, tails was 49%, and someone allowed you to do 5,000 coin tosses, and you got to pick heads, that'd be great to use the Kelly formula to set your bet size and all of that. But in investing, at least the way we practice investing, you're making one-off bets. It's not like 5,000 coin tosses, so it doesn't apply. And so, in hindsight, I realized that if I were to ever...
So, there's his comments. He's basically saying, as value investors, you're not going to generate enough occurrences for it to make sense. However, if we change the formula to a different way, then it's actually very useful. Why is there a monkey on my screen? Interesting. Also, look at the guy with the white t-shirt on. He's like, yeah, sorry, can't listen about investing. I'm too busy looking at my big muscles. Yeah, so jacked, bro. Anyone who wears a fucking white t-shirt like that is fucking, like, what is it, like one of those stupid flannel things? These things are fucking dumb. Like, who would ever wear something like that? Really stupid. Like, we get it, bro, you work out, like, it's not that big a deal. Like, listen to what Monish has to say or something. So yeah, that guy's a fucking tool and a half, that's for sure. Big muscle. That is true. The way you use the formula, you will not generate enough occurrences, right? However, there's a different way we can look at the formula, and we can use it as a backward-looking metric to see how lucky or unlucky or how we should have performed given an opportunity. So, if you've never heard about the Kelly criterion before, I'm going to break it down quickly. Go over here, Mr. Mustache. So, basically, you're going to put in three inputs. The probability of winning the game, how much you win if you win the game, how much you lose if you lose, and it's going to spit out a number. That number is going to be your bet size. So let's say we use the example he gave, and we have 51.49 odds on a 1-to-1 coin flip. We're going to get a Kelly of 0.02, which means we should bet 2% of our whole bankroll every single time we play the game. Now, this gets into some nuances that don't really apply to the real world that I've gone over before, but we can also simulate exactly what he's talking about. So this is a simulation of what he gave it as an example, which is 51.49 odds. He has said 5,000 times. This is 10,000 times. And we can see the incredible amount of variance we get when we run this a few times. So this is playing the same game. So this person did very well playing this game 10,000 times. And then let's do another person, you know, also very well. But sometimes you'll get some that are really good like that. Jeez. Let's see if I can get like a bad one. That one's kind of bad, not as much as the other one. So there's a lot of variance even when you play the game the correct way. So let's go back to the formula, and I want to break down exactly what this number means. So the 0.02, when you're dealing with the Kelly criterion, that is the mathematically most efficient way to grow your capital given that specific opportunity and assuming that opportunity stays consistent. So when you're playing this game, this is the best way to play it. If you go below this number, so say you bet 1% in this case, you'll still make money, but you'll actually not make money as fast. And in that case, if these occurrences or these opportunities are rare, you're sort of leaving money on the table by not betting the correct amount from the formula. And this, on the flip side, which is much worse, if you bet over, let's say 4%, you will actually lose. You will slowly go to zero, and you turned a winning game into a losing game just by betting the incorrect amount. Now, there's another way that you can structure this formula to get the same results, and I've actually used back tests to sort of proof the formula. I'm not going to go into that right now, but just know that it can be applied in a different way, which is using CAGR, or compounded annual growth rate, which is just your average return over some time frame, and standard deviation. So we can use those two numbers, which forward looking is hard to get, but backward looking is extremely easy to get. And you can get a same Kelly number, but in this case sometimes it'll be over 1, in which case you'd use leverage. But that's, again, another topic for another day. So let's take the stock market. Let's take the S&P 500, and let's show a practical example of what I mean by using this as a backward-looking metric to see if your returns are lucky or unlucky, and like what you should expect. So let's take last year. Starting from the month of, so starting January 1st of 2020 to 2021, we got an average, okay, that's a weird year because it just went straight up, so we're going to get a huge number. Let's take 5 years, so let's go 2021 to 2016. Okay, that's a lot better. That way we don't get a crazy number. So we're gonna take 14.25, and a standard deviation of 10.95. 0.5. Oh, we still get a really a really big number. That's fine though. So if you were invested in the market, the S&P 500, between the years of 2016 and the beginning of 2016 to the end of 2021, you obviously did really well because I think it like doubled or something, and there was very minimal volatility. So the Kelly criterion in this case is saying, well, given this opportunity, saying you could kind of predict this in the future, which we can't, but using it as a backward-looking metric, the most efficient way to have invested in that market would be to almost 12x leverage your investment in the S&P. Now, when we use the formula this way, there is a sort of caveat here where it's just the way I like to see it is if you imagine a chart. Well, you can actually just look up SPY the past 5 years. So it's kind of just straight up like this. What the Kelly criteria tends to do is take that spike down right here and get that as close to you losing all your money as possible. Which sounds a little scary. But what it's going to do is it's going to max your leverage out like crazy to the point where you're just barely out of money, and then you're okay. So in March of 2020, you would have lost like 99.5% of your capital and then made it all back using 12x leverage. So that's the way the formula works. Obviously, you'd use a lesser version, but it's useful to see, oh, I can take this basket of 10 stocks. It had this return and this standard deviation. Did I overbet, and is that why I'm not getting such a good return? So let's say you have a negative Kelly. Obviously, just being invested in general is a losing game during that time period. But you can kind of see like, oh, if my Kelly is negative 0.1 and I invested all my money into it, well, it's like a good way of seeing whether you were lucky or unlucky or not. I actually use this as a forward-looking metric for index funds. So you can take long-term averages for like broad market index funds and then just assume that's going to be like that going forward. And then you can use the Kelly criterion that way. So while in the context that he said, yes, you can't use it the traditional way, which is the probability of profit and the win-loss coin flip kind of way. You can't do that because you're not going to generate enough occurrences as a value investor. Which brings me to the next topic, which is, well, for another day, but how luck plays such a big role in investing, because you get such a small amount of occurrences and because there's a bunch of things going on, and you can make all these mistakes. Like, let's say a stock is really well, but you use leverage for some reason or something like that, and you've turned a good stock into something like terrible, right? you definitely don't want to do that. And stock trading just in general has these frictions that cause your Kelly to be slightly negative for the vast majority of stocks because of skew, which is another thing. And that'll cause you to slowly drift, can slowly drift towards zero if you're like over betting. So I think that's it. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Peace.